What if the true power in attraction was never loud, never desperate, never chasing, but silent, self-contained, and deeply aware? A highly vibrant woman does not enter a man's life to compete, to beg, or to prove her worth. She enters like a mirror that reflects his hidden self back to him. Her presence alone disturbs the unconscious patterns he has long avoided. She does not manipulate in obvious ways. She understands the currents beneath the surface. In the Jungian sense, she recognizes the shadow within herself first, and because she has faced her own darkness, she is not intimidated by his. This is where her strength begins. She knows that energy speaks before words do, and she refines her energy carefully. A highly vibrant woman understands that a man often projects his unintegrated shadow onto the woman before him. If he fears inadequacy, he may attempt dominance. If he fears abandonment, he may withdraw first. Instead of reacting emotionally, she observes, observation is her silent strategy. She reads tone, timing, micro-expressions, and inconsistencies. Not to judge, but to understand. Because understanding gives her leverage over chaos. She does not rush to fix him, nor does she absorb his confusion as her responsibility. Her calmness becomes unsettling. When he expects drama, she offers composure. When he expects pursuit, she offers space. And in that space, his own psyche begins to echo. She does not try to win arguments, she reframes them. She knows that masculine energy often seeks resistance to measure strength. Instead of resisting directly, she redirects. If he tests her boundaries, she responds with clarity rather than emotion. If he withdraws to regain control, she deepens into her own life. Her identity does not shrink around his moods. This is the subtle psychological tension that shifts power dynamics. She remains centered in her purpose, friendships, ambitions, and growth. He begins to sense that her world does not revolve around him, and this realization awakens both admiration and fear. Admiration because he respects strength, fear because he cannot easily predict her. In dark psychology, unpredictability creates magnetism, but her unpredictability is not chaos, it is sovereignty. She is not playing games, she simply refuses to reveal every layer at once. Mystery is not deception, it is depth. She understands that instant availability reduces perceived value. So she allows desire to breathe. She answers, but not instantly. She gives affection, but not excessively. She listens, but does not confess every vulnerability too soon. This balanced rhythm keeps emotional polarity alive. He feels drawn in, yet never fully in control. And control, for many men, is the illusion they secretly cling to. Midway through the connection, something shifts. He begins to realize she is not like others who chased validation from him. His usual strategies begin to fail. If he attempts emotional distance, she does not panic. If he flirts for jealousy, she does not compete. If he pushes limits, she reinforces boundaries quietly. This is where suspense emerges in his psyche. He wonders what she truly feels. He questions whether he is enough. For the first time, he is forced to confront his own shadow rather than project it outward, and that confrontation is uncomfortable because she has become a catalyst. But understand this clearly, her goal is not manipulation for cruelty, her awareness is protection. A vibrant woman has often learned through pain that unchecked empathy can become self-betrayal, so she integrates softness with steel. She can be warm, nurturing, affectionate, yet she never abandons self-respect. If she senses dishonesty, she withdraws without dramatic speeches. If she senses genuine effort, she reciprocates with depth. Her energy rewards growth and distances immaturity. This selective responsiveness conditions behavior more effectively than confrontation ever could. He learns that access to her requires emotional maturity, and slowly he either evolves or fades away. Ultimately, a highly vibrant woman handles a man not by overpowering him, but by mastering herself. She knows that psychological influence begins with internal alignment. When she is secure, she does not compete with other women. When she is fulfilled, she does not cling. When she is self-aware, she does not fear his shadow. Instead, she becomes the calm center around which chaos dissolves. And in that presence, a man must decide, rise into greater consciousness or retreat into his comfort. Her power is not loud dominance, it is quiet certainty. and certainty, when embodied, reshapes every dynamic without force. There is a subtlety in her approach that most men never notice at first. A highly vibrant woman understands that attraction is not a matter of persuasion or surface charm. It is the resonance of energies meeting and interacting at a deep psychological level. She does not speak to impress, nor does she seek validation from words alone. Her energy communicates on a level beneath consciousness, a level where intuition and instinct collide. She is aware that men are often guided by patterns they do not fully understand, and she navigates those patterns with a combination of patience, insight, and quiet audacity. She becomes a presence that awakens both curiosity and respect, simply by existing with intention. In the early stages, she observes more than she engages. She notices what excites him, what irritates him, and what he fears admitting even to himself. She senses his emotional rhythms and the ways he negotiates control, whether consciously or unconsciously. While he may think he is testing her, she understands that these tests reveal his own insecurities. She does not overreact, nor does she mirror his defenses. Instead, she maintains an inner stillness that amplifies her influence. By holding herself steady, she allows him to confront his own emotional turbulence. The tension between his projections and her calm becomes the silent dialogue in which true attraction grows. And in that tension, he begins to recognize that she is unlike anyone he has encountered. She also understands that vulnerability, wielded wisely, is a form of power. It is not about exposing every weakness immediately, but about revealing selective depth. By sharing pieces of herself gradually, she creates an emotional rhythm that encourages him to invest emotionally rather than take for granted. He begins to feel that gaining access to her inner world requires effort, reflection, and sincerity. Every small revelation she offers becomes a test of his capacity for understanding and growth. A man who is only seeking conquest or validation will stumble in this space, while a man willing to explore his own shadow can rise to meet her energy. Her approach is not coercive. It is magnetic in the truest sense, drawing out his higher potential through presence and subtle guidance. At the midpoint, suspense becomes almost palpable. She allows moments of silence, moments where her intentions are not immediately clear. He may feel confused, frustrated, or intrigued. This uncertainty is not manipulation for amusement. It is a psychological truth. Humans are drawn to what they cannot fully grasp. A highly vibrant woman uses this principle ethically, creating an environment in which he is compelled to confront his assumptions and expectations. He begins to wonder who she truly is, what motivates her, and whether he is truly prepared to meet her on equal terms. That suspense, that uncertainty, is not cruel. It is transformative. It forces introspection, and for many men it becomes an unspoken invitation to evolve. She recognizes the importance of boundaries, not as rigid walls, but as markers of self-respect. Every boundary she maintains communicates that her time, energy, and attention are valuable. She does not react to transgressions with anger or drama. She responds with clarity and consistency. If he tests her limits, she reinforces them without humiliation. If he respects her space, she rewards him with trust and openness. This pattern, subtle as it may seem, has profound effects on his psyche. He learns that her respect must be earned, that her energy is not a commodity, and that her inner world is sacred. In this way, she shifts power dynamics naturally without overt struggle or force. Yet, her power is not derived solely from control or boundary setting. It comes from a profound alignment with her own purpose. She cultivates her passions, nurtures her creativity, and pursues experiences that expand her consciousness. This internal fulfillment radiates outward, making her less reactive to his moods and more compelling in her presence. She does not need constant reassurance or validation, and this independence paradoxically increases his investment. He senses that she is fully alive, and in her vitality, he cannot help but reflect on his own level of engagement with life. She becomes both a mirror and a challenge, revealing his limitations while inspiring aspiration. In the final layers of this dynamic, she demonstrates emotional sophistication that borders on philosophical insight. She understands that a man's attraction is never solely physical. It is psychological, emotional, and spiritual. She responds to his ego, but also to his deeper self, the parts he may not dare to show. Her interactions are calibrated, her energy intentional, yet never contrived. She knows when to step forward, when to withdraw, and when to remain simply present. In doing so, she becomes a catalyst for transformation, a force that encourages him to integrate his shadow and engage with her on a level that transcends superficial desire. Her influence is subtle, profound, and lasting. A highly vibrant woman understands that true influence over a man is never about control. It is about resonance. She knows that energy communicates more than words ever could. When she enters a space, her presence alters the atmosphere, not by demanding attention, but by simply being fully herself. There is a rhythm to her movements, a subtle confidence in her gestures, and a clarity in her voice that communicates unspoken truths. Men, often unconsciously, are drawn to this kind of energy because it reflects a life they sense is whole and unfragmented. She is not available for projections, illusions, or shallow desires. Instead, she becomes a mirror, reflecting the depths he usually avoids, forcing him to confront the complexity within himself. She cultivates a sense of independence that is magnetic. Her time, her thoughts, her passions, and her ambitions are not tethered to his approval. This detachment is not coldness, it is freedom. In this freedom lies the subtle psychological pull that many men cannot resist. He notices the difference immediately. She does not react impulsively to moods, she does not seek validation, and she does not overextend herself emotionally. In his mind, confusion and admiration intertwine, creating a tension he cannot easily resolve, and it is in this tension that a deep, almost primal curiosity is awakened. He wants to understand her, to align with her, but she is never a puzzle to be solved quickly. She is a universe to be respected and explored patiently. A vibrant woman also understands the art of emotional layering. She offers warmth, playfulness, and intimacy selectively, creating a rhythm that keeps desire alive without suffocating it. She does not rush attachment or confession. She is aware that human psychology responds to scarcity, rhythm, and contrast. By embodying both approachability and independence, she creates polarity that fuels attraction naturally. Men instinctively respond to this because it mirrors the balance they subconsciously seek between dominance and surrender, challenge and comfort. She does not manufacture drama to provoke interest. Her depth and authenticity create enough intrigue for him to remain invested. This is a subtle mastery of shadow and light, of giving just enough to inspire pursuit without compromising sovereignty. Suspense becomes a natural tool in her relational strategy, though she never calls it that. He may find himself waiting for a message, wondering about a reaction, or questioning the consistency of her attention, not because she is capricious, but because she operates from a place of self-possession. He senses that her world is rich, complex, and not dependent on his validation. This uncertainty evokes curiosity, reflection, and even transformation. He begins to examine his own behavior, his own attachments, and his own fears. She is a catalyst without intention. Her clarity alone illuminates his shadow, and in that illumination, he confronts truths he might have avoided his entire life, testing his emotional resilience and self-awareness. At the same time, she maintains boundaries that are inviolable yet gentle. She does not allow disrespect, manipulation, or emotional games to linger. If a man crosses her limits, she responds without anger, but with firmness. Her calm enforcement of boundaries communicates strength and self-respect far more effectively than confrontation or pleading ever could. This not only protects her, but educates him. He begins to recognize the necessity of integrity and awareness in interacting with her. In a subtle, almost imperceptible way, she trains him to align his behavior with higher emotional standards. Men, drawn to her depth, either rise to meet it or drift away, unable to navigate the gravity of her presence. Her mastery also lies in her understanding of timing. She knows when to reveal vulnerability and when to remain reserved. She knows when to speak and when to remain silent. This conscious modulation of presence amplifies her influence. Men sense her timing instinctively. They feel the pulse of her attention, the cadence of her engagement, and the gravity of her restraint. The interplay of these subtle signals creates psychological tension that is simultaneously captivating and instructive. He learns patience, observation, and introspection simply by being in proximity to her. Without force, without persuasion, she shifts his consciousness through the architecture of her self-mastery. Ultimately, A highly vibrant woman handles a man by holding space for both her own light and his shadow. She does not absorb his darkness, nor does she project her own unresolved patterns onto him. She becomes the axis around which relational dynamics rotate, a stable point of consciousness that allows growth, reflection, and transformation. In this space, a man must choose to engage with authenticity, to confront his inner contradictions, or to retreat into habitual avoidance. Her power is quiet, deliberate, and unfaltering. She embodies the paradox of being both approachable and untouchable, tender yet formidable. And through this embodiment, she rewrites the rules of attraction, influence, and connection, leaving an indelible impression that shapes his perception long after she has moved through his life.